Hi, I'm an Australian guy living here in beautiful Belarus, and not only have I lived here in Belarus for just over 1 year now, but I also lived in the States, mainly in New York City, but also in Ann Arbor, which is a little college town in Michigan. So given this, I feel like I am in a position to make some kind of comparison, at least a surface level comparison between the two countries and their cultures. Now, one thing that you really notice here in Belarus is that there's no-go zones. You can go anywhere you want. It's so incredibly safe everywhere you go. There's no violence, there's no gang activity. Now, of course, many parts of America are safe. In fact, probably most of it is. But we know, if you've been to the States, you know that if you're walking in a city, especially a big urban kind of city, that things can change very quickly. You can be in a nice, safe neighborhood, then all of a sudden, 2 blocks later, you're just walking down the street, and all of a sudden there's no cars, there's lots of bars on the windows, and there's a really dodgy vibe going on. So you have to be just a little bit aware about where you are and that kind of stuff, especially at night. You need to be very aware of where you are and what area you're in and who's around. Whereas here in Belarus, you can just walk around anytime you want, any place you want. You just get up and walk. There's just no safety issues at all. In fact, it's so extreme in this way that it kind of makes me a bit naive. And I'm getting ready to leave for a period of time, and I'm realizing, I have to be careful. I'm going to have to think a little bit about where I am and what I'm doing. I don't need to be paranoid too much, obviously, but especially in foreign countries that I'm not too familiar with, I'll need to change my mindset a little bit. Just put my guard up just a little bit to remember that the world is not full of good people. Second thing is that Americans are kind of more outgoing and more chatty. They're more likely to engage you, they're more likely to engage each other, and they're more happy just to talk at you. You get a lot of monologues with Americans. They like to kind of rant and chit chat, and they're generally very nice people, Americans, and I like the fact that they're chatty because I like to talk. So I'm down for a chat with most American people. Here in Belarus, it's very different. Actually, let me qualify that. They're very chatty with foreigners, like literally just here, a guy just came up to me like 3 minutes ago as I was filming, and it's like, I'm curious, where are you from? What are you doing? Da, da, da. We had a bit of a chat for 5 minutes, and that was it. And these conversations are always the same. They're kind of like, why are you here? What are you doing here? Where are you from? And then they kind of lose interest after 2 minutes. So it's kind of odd, but it always happens that way. But they're friendly towards us as foreigners. Last night, I was in a bar for the first time in months. I don't really go to bars, but I was in a bar, and it was more of like a local suburban bar with 2 buddies of mine. And we were just standing kind of near the bar, and there was guys at the bar, and they saw us there, and they asked us, did you want to get a drink? Like, there's room, we can make room for you if you want to get a drink, right? So they're very friendly, especially to foreigners. This is very much a thing, but they don't really talk to each other. Whereas Americans are more likely to kind of chat to each other, They're more friendly. I remember some of my first exposure en masse to Americans, and I was like, does everyone know each other? They're kind of just chatting everywhere. Whereas Belarus, again, they'll chat to foreigners at a superficial level for a short period of time. Again, very structured and similar conversations, but they won't talk to each other at all. They just won't do it. So you've got really 2 extremes. Third thing that I'll mention today is that in America, America's generally pretty clean, but there's a lot of graffiti. There's a lot of rubbish around. There's a lot of things that are broken, footpaths, roads, potted, this kind of stuff. Not everywhere. There's a lot of nice places in America. When I say America, the USA, of course. My Mexican friends always, when I'm calling it USA America, he's like, it's USA, not America. But there are a lot of really crappy areas with massive amounts of graffiti, broken stuff, rubbish everywhere. Although it's the richest country in the world, and it is the most powerful country in the world in almost every aspect, it still has elements of third world inside of it. Whereas here in Belarus, which I would call maybe a second world country, I would say most of the institutions function like first world, but the incomes are kind of more mid-level, upper mid-level when you look at the data. But it is incredibly clean here. You will not see graffiti. You will not see rubbish. Just follow me on some of my walks, right? I mean, obviously this is a park, so there's not much going on here, but when you're in a busy street or whatever, there's no rubbish. Nothing's broken. Everything's fixed, right? If it's everything's maintained. Like, I think the toilets are cleaned every hour. Wherever you go, the toilets are always clean. So you're going to have this kind of homely feel here in Belarus, that things are working, everything's clean, everything's, well, somewhat modern, but certainly repaired, certainly functional. Because in America, you do get this too, in the US, you do get this too, but there are also just some horrible places that really are just ghettos and just busted up and places that you don't really want to be. Actually, I'm going to lie. I'm going to give you a fourth one because I feel like I'm beating up on America a bit. And I like America. I like the country. I've lived there a long time. I have several American friends. So I don't want to feel like I'm beating up on it. But the reality is, living in the States, is that your living standards are going to be higher. You're going to have, on average, about 2.5 times more stuff than you would in Belarus. So if you're an American watching this and you're curious about how Belarusians live, imagine dividing your income by 2.5. Yeah, that's what it's like living in Belarus for the average person. And if you're a Belarusian and you want to get a sense of what it's like to live in America in terms of living standards, in terms of money and material stuff, buying stuff, again, multiply your income by about 2.5. And this is a very rough estimate, but of course it depends on your profession and so forth. If you're a Belarusian in an IT sphere, logistics, something to do with English or crypto, then you're probably doing better than you would if you did live in America. So there are some casual things that I have noticed about the two different countries. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I know that around a quarter of my views come from the USA. And I know that there's a lot of guys from the USA living here in Belarus. I've met at least 10 different guys from the States living here. So I'd love to hear your thoughts comparing the two countries. Don't give a one-eyed bashing of one country or one-eyed bashing of the other country. Try and keep it reasonably balanced. But I would love to hear your thoughts nonetheless. If you enjoyed this video, do give me a like. And then I know which videos are more popular, which ones I should make more like, what are the topics that you want to see. If you're a subscriber, I do appreciate it. I'm glad that you've chosen to watch a few of my videos at least. And if you're not a subscriber and you've made it this far, you might just want to go that extra press and just boom, press that big red subscribe button. Good news, I have a little bit of B-roll footage coming at you. Now, just as I've started here, it's just kind of started to rain a little bit and I'm really too lazy to open up the weather app, so I'm just going to roll with it for now. I'm going to go for a walk. This is Yakuba Kolossa. Below us is Yakuba Kolossa metro station. This street here is Prospect Nezavisimosti. Down there is Kamarovka Market, and this is northwards. I'm going to walk northwards. Let's see what we find. I'll do a little bit of a talk to you as I walk. Do a mixture of talking, not talking. As I say, just a little bit of rain today, but I see a bit of blue there. Where there's blue in the sky, there's some hope. So hopefully this dirty big cloud here can move off somewhere and we can enjoy the day. Evraopt is a well-known kind of medium-sized supermarket chain here. You might know this place. McDonald's McCafe, it's real. You don't see a lot of retailers here in Belarus that are Western. You see lots of Western products, but not the retailers. But definitely McDonald's, KFC, and to a lesser extent Burger King have really penetrated the market here. It's kind of funny to see. You see McDonald's here, and then you see Zoom. Zoom is this whole building here is like what the local youth call the Soviet shopping center. It's a government-owned shopping center. I really like it, to be honest. It gives you a lot of, pretty much, if you need something, it's going to be there. Right? I just bought a strainer from there, some bathroom scales. They've got everything there. It's like it's like a department store essentially. And I've been there many times since I've lived here. We'll walk up a little bit more. Yeah, the rain's just lightening off now, which is good. You can see here, just as I walk, I'll talk about these statues in a moment, but for now I'll talk about some of the discounts. Look at these discounts. So 35%, 35, 30%. So the whole store becomes like 35% off. So obviously they put the prices higher for the rest of the year, of course, for the rest of the week or rest of the month, should I say. So you can see there the first one on the 21st and 22nd of September, which is today and yesterday, 35% off on anything that costs 7 rubles or more. So take that. So everything in there is 35% off. But as I say, obviously it means that the normal prices are probably a little bit higher, right? Because in reality, a retailer's profit margin is going to be maybe 10% or something like this. So they can't just put 35% off, kind of obviously. But that's the day to go in there. On the other days it's pretty empty, but on those days, so if we went in today, we'd probably find it's pretty full. I'm going to do a couple of videos, actually, walkthroughs of Zoom. In fact, you know what? Maybe I'll do it now. No, I won't. I'll do it a different day. So I want to go hat shopping now. I want to buy a bear fur hat. And I want to let you guys come with me when I buy it. So, we'll keep going north. There you go, Burger King. Crazy, huh? McDonald's, Zoom, and Burger King. And in Zoom you get like a lot of the stuff that would have been available for purchase back in the day. Patient, that guy. And then you get Burger King again. Burger King. Children's Hospital that way. And here we got, so these are all for 2 rubles. So the sign says. Oh, see you later. 2 rubles. 2 rubles is not even $1. Exchange rate, as it's been for about 3 or 4 months now, about 2.53 rubles for $1. 2.5, 2.53, 2.55. Although, of course, it's not exactly a market rate, but it's the rate that we get every day. And the buy-sell spread is really, really narrow, actually. So you can buy and sell for like 2.5, 2.53. So the buy-sell spread might be like 0.6% either way, buy-sell. It's actually pretty impressive. Nice efficient market, even though, as I say, it's not actually the market rate, but it's been very stable at that level for a while, so you kind of know what you're getting at least, I guess. Mark Formel's a very famous Belarusian retailer. And you have MaxBet. So this is Gorny Club and Bar. MaxBet casino. A lot of casinos here in Belarus. A lot of casinos. You probably know that they've been pretty much banned in Russia. I think they've got one in Russia. So a lot of Russians come here to gamble. Here's another one. Casino XO Club. And a lot of Chinese come here as well. Of course, Chinese will often go to Macau for their gambling needs. They also come here to Belarus. So you get a mixture of mainly Russians and Chinese rollers coming here to spend some money. I was having a conversation the other day about whether or not government should ban things. And the one topic up for discussion was cigarettes as a starting point. And that was kind of true, because cigarettes here are cheap, man. Cigarettes here are like 1.5 rubles a packet, like 60 cents a packet or something. And, you know, you start to think, well, it makes it very affordable, you know? And is that something you want to encourage? But then I guess the tricky part is if you start to ban something, where do you stop with your banning, you know? Where do you stop? Can you ban something else? Because you know what's coming soon. The banning of meat will no doubt come soon. It's getting quite heavy. I'm just going to go under, I guess, some cover here. No, it's not as much covered as I thought it was going to be. Let's try in the coffee shop here. It's our best bet in the coffees. I might even get a coffee. Get a coffee and wait this rain out. All right, back again. Yeah, so if you ban cigarettes, for example, which, look, it probably wouldn't be a bad decision to ban cigarettes. Like, on the net positive and negative thing, it's probably not the worst decision in the world, but yeah, you do open up the potential for this kind of thing to go, you know, mass market. Okay, let's ban anything. Phones, let's ban cars, let's ban motorbikes, let's ban anything, right? So once you start banning one thing, this becomes an acceptable way of dealing with something that maybe someone in power doesn't like, right? So it's a bit of a problem, do you ban it or not? And where this conversation came from was all those casinos, because casinos are, you know, you can make an argument to ban casinos as well, right? They're not exactly a social good. They're not producing anything other than kind of hormones, emotions, energy, feelings. Maybe we might start walking again. It looks like it's just kind of dried up a bit. All right, let's go for it. Yeah, you can make the argument to ban casinos as well. I can see that argument. But again, if it's casinos and cigarettes, what's next? Meat? Maybe flying by planes? Fuck, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you don't want that to be an acceptable way of doing things. Let's just ban this. Ban it, you know? So anyway, in saying that, we do ban hard drugs in the West to some extent. Obviously they're pretty illegal here. You wouldn't want to be caught with something here, that's for sure. Alright, so we're kind of somewhere between Yukuba Kolossa Metro and Academia Navuk, which numbers 118, 119 if you want to follow along on the metro map. That's where we are, halfway between Yukuba Kolossa, 118 and 119, Academia Navuk. There's quite a bit going up along here actually. There's a few universities up here. Here's another, looks like casino. Looks like the way. These are everywhere, uptakers. There's obviously a pharmacy. You'll definitely notice nice wide footpaths. There is a designated bike lane here as well. This can happen from time to time. I'm a big fan of this because one thing that's kind of weird here, like as I always say, Belarusians are big on social etiquette. They're very civil. They're very civil people, but on average. But when you get people riding the bikes and the scooters, like, oh man, it's so dangerous. It's like kamikaze stuff, really. It is. Watching some of these e-scooters and bikes being ridden within centimeters of people just walking along, you know, it's pretty crazy stuff. But nonetheless, here there is an actual bike lane which is being used. This is good news. Coming up to the hospital here, there's a massive medical area. Chances are if you book into some kind of government specialist, there's a really good chance it'll be around here. I actually had one mole off my face burnt off. It clearly wasn't cancerous, but it was just growing at an incredibly rapid rate. They had one on my arm, which was changing shape and changing colour rapidly. Like these things, like the one on my face went from nothing to a full-size mole in 2 months. It's like, where did this thing come from? So I burnt that off, and then the one on my arm I was a bit worried about because it was turning kind of half creamy colour, half brown. So I had that cut out. Just had to do a bit of a test on it for me. So I'm getting up there in years, and you know, coming from Australia, European skin's not made for that kind of climate, you know. Plus that big hole in the ozone layer. So as a kid, you get pounded with that sun smart message. You know, just be safe, get it checked out. That's the message we get, and that's definitely got to my psyche. So I thought just test that thing on my arm, and they did, and it was all very fast. The oncologist here, I got in very quickly, and the whole process was done in about 2 weeks. Very professional, very fast, very efficient service. It's not a part of the world that's known for medical tourism, but look, it probably should be. I've heard nothing but positive things from foreigners using things like dentists. I also went to a gastrologist, and this dude knew his stuff. He's great service, really understood what was happening, was very professional, and he could have milked me easily, but he didn't. So yeah, I'm not sure other than those three kinds of services, I'm not sure, but so this is kind of the medical region here. These are the medical buildings there on this block. One thing you will notice if you're here in Belarus, that's controversial. One thing you will notice here in Belarus is that people don't jaywalk. And that's partly to do with their high level of social etiquette, partly to do with probably copping a fine. But it's not uncommon. I know in Poland it's kind of the same actually. I was surprised the first time I ever went to Poland, I noticed the same thing. And I was surprised how strict people were, because I was under this loose impression some time ago that, you know, Eastern European countries are a bit wilder than Western European countries. So I was surprised how much social etiquette there was there, and why people were not just crossing the road when there's no traffic. Because in Australia, that's kind of what we tend to do. We tend to just cross the road when there's no traffic. Just maybe check there's no cops around and cross. Although I got fined for this. Not that long before I left Australia, I got fined for jaywalking on the street where it was actually blocked at one end, so you couldn't actually walk, and I tried to negotiate with the guy But he was just going to find me no matter what. So here in Belarus, I think the police do tend to fine you for jaywalking. I've heard a couple of stories of this. Well, 3 stories I've heard. And 2 of them, the guy actually talked his way out of it. Just by reason. I kind of like the way they do that here, through reason. So for example, my friend who, the police tried to fine him, and he was crossing the street. So he crossed the street, he took off the footpath onto the street, and it was like a flashing green, right? Flashing green signal for him to walk. Halfway across it turned red. Okay, cool. So he goes up on the footpath, there's a policeman there, he's like, what are you doing? Still delay-ish. And he's like, oh, look, I know it's red now, but when I crossed it was green. When I left the footpath it was green. He's like, well, how do I know that? He's like, well, of course, because if it was red when I crossed, the cars would have started. And the cop's like, oh, that makes sense. Just on your way. Have a nice life. Kind of interesting way of doing things. I mean, it might happen like that in many countries, to be fair, but yeah, I'm just a bit shitty about my experience in Melbourne, where the guy gave me an $82 fine, 82 Australian dollar fine. It's only about 55 US or something, not even. The current exchange rate, maybe, yeah, something like that. No need for tears. So I reckon we must be really close to Academia in the book. No, we're not actually. It's around this bend. You can probably see there a nice KFC. These things are everywhere as well. So in only 8 minutes of this secondary footage, we've seen a McDonald's, a Burger King, and a KFC. And down there's a theatre. If you ever want to go down that way, down that street, where's my finger? Down that street, if you want to go down that street. There's a theatre, and there's a couple of Thai restaurants actually, which are not too bad. Fairly tasty. Just 2, I don't know why they're there for, just 2 random Thai restaurants. We're getting very close to Academia in the book. Got a really good feeling about this green light, and I reckon it's going to go green really soon. Everyone's waiting patiently. Let's do it. It's funny in New York. One of my memories of just cultural differences, one of obviously a lot. One was how New Yorkers would just anticipate the light turning green and just start walking. And half of them are across on the other side before it even goes green. It's that real New York state of mind, you know. Billy Joel song. That intensity in their lives and wanting to get from A to B as quick as possible. All that kind of stereotype, which is pretty true. So there's a theatre I was talking about before. Kino Theatre. You see the writing there. Scooters are absolutely everywhere. Actually, a guy commented, I think I did one of these B-rolls some time ago, and I commented how that in Australia, or at least in Sydney, a mate of mine up there told me that they've banned these in Sydney. Just because it's kind of too dangerous to be on the footpaths. And in Australia, like the pavements are not like this, right? Like it's a car country, so the public transport's generally quite weak, and the infrastructure for any other than cars is quite weak, right? So sidewalks are usually pretty narrow. So a normal sidewalk in Australia would be just kind of here and to maybe there. That's about it, right? And then maybe some grass, usually some nature strip, a couple of trees. Be looking nice, but yeah, not made to take volume of pedestrians, bikes, whatever. In fact, in Australia, you have to ride the bike on the road, in theory. Whereas here in Belarus, you don't. You can ride on the footpath. I've never seen anyone riding a bike on a road before here in Belarus. So yeah, in Australia, or in Sydney at least, maybe the rest of the states too, or cities too, I'm not sure, but apparently they're banned, and I can kind of see why. I mean, they are dangerous as. I mean, just the way guys here swerve in and out, like I'm surprised there's not more accidents. But nevertheless, It's a hard one, isn't it? This kind of regulation. Where do you stop the rights of the individual? Where do you stop the harm they might cause? But here in Belarus, I can see why it's kind of legal. As I say, there's a nice wide footpath. It's a lot safer. Also, the quality of the footpaths are very high. The infrastructure is kept in very good condition, which means that it's very safe to ride them, just in general. It's not a third world country where you've got this broken footpath everywhere, and you literally just can't ride them because the footpath's too hacked up. But here's Academia Navuk 119. You see this little pathway down here. That'll be down to the metro there, and on that side as well. It's always very systematic. You just kind of know that there's one there and there'll be one on the other side. Like, you just know every street's kind of structured the same, every metro exit is structured the same. It's not just kind of winging it, whatever. You kind of know how the setup will be from looking at previous stations. Looks like we're going to miss this green man. What I might do is say goodbye for now. It's been nice chatting to you. If you have any comments to make on any of the topics that I've kind of chatted about today, feel free to give your ideas below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Any ideas for videos, do let me know. If you like the video, do give me a like. It does help my video in the algorithm. And also, if you're not subscribed, do feel free to subscribe to my channel as well.